This is the moment that changed everything. A deaf and blind 7-year-old girl stands at a water pump, and for the first time she understands that objects have names. Her teacher spells WATER into her palm, and the world suddenly opens up. But what if the story we were told isn't the whole truth? This theory might get this video taken down, but here it is. We've all heard the Helen Keller story in school. Blind, deaf, and somehow she grew up to write 14 books and win an Oscar. But what if Helen wasn't the one doing the writing at all? It all started when Helen was just a baby. A terrible fever struck, and when it finally broke, the doctor delivered devastating news. She would never see again. She would never hear again. The world went completely dark and silent. At age 7, a young teacher named Anne Sullivan arrived by train to a tiny town in Alabama. She had been sent to help a wild, unreachable child that nobody knew what to do with. Anne didn't know it yet, but this journey would change both of their lives forever. Within weeks, Anne had broken through. She taught Helen to communicate by tracing letters into her palm: WATER, DOLLMOTHER. The connection was instant, and it spread like wildfire. A child who couldn't see or hear was suddenly hungry for every word in existence. And things escalated fast. Before long, Helen was sitting at a typewriter, cranking out essays, stories, and eventually entire books. 14 of them, hundreds of articles, all under Anne's careful guidance. But here's where the story gets strange. When Helen was just 13 years old, she was writing passages like this. And while you listen, I want you to think about what you were writing when you were 13, because I can promise you, it didn't look like this. The fireworks began. Thousands of tiny electric lights were reflected in the water. It looked as if a shower of golden fish had been caught in an invisible net. Remember, this is a child who has never seen fireworks, who has never seen water, who has never seen light. She described the world with impossible precision. Colors she had never seen, sights she had never witnessed. She didn't just write words, she painted pictures with them. And that raises a question that nobody wants to ask. How does someone who has never seen a sunset describe one so beautifully that it makes you cry? How does someone who has never seen a face write about expressions with perfect accuracy? The writing was too good, suspiciously good. Helen became a global sensation. She was a symbol of hope, of human potential, of the impossible made possible. Statues were erected in her honor. She and Anne were world famous, traveling the globe as a team. But fame has a way of hiding secrets. She won an Academy Award. She received the Presidential Medal of Freedom. She even flew a plane for a publicity stunt. The world couldn't get enough of Helen Keller. But behind every great Helen Keller achievement, there was one constant presence. Anne Sullivan was always there, translating every conversation, managing every appearance, handling every dollar that came in. And here's the part they don't teach you in school. Anne was in charge of Helen's finances, and her own net worth was directly tied to Helen's success. Then Anne died. And everything changed. Helen stopped publishing. Her final book took 20 years to write, and critics called it her worst work. The elegant prose was gone. The vivid descriptions vanished. It was like the magic had died with Anne. So, here's the theory. What Helen did was remarkable either way, but it sure looks a lot like Anne Sullivan was ghostwriting for Helen the entire time. Anne had the motive, the access, and the talent. And when she died, the brilliant writing died with her. We learned the school version of this story, so we never thought to question it. But maybe it's time we did.